say, I hope you have your notepad. I hope you have your pens ready to write down as we learn as much as we can about leaving a legacy. Financial investments. We're talking about land acquisition and all those things this afternoon with Brother Domville. Brother Domville, can you please come, sir? Welcome.
Thank you very much, Sister Farron, for those kind words of welcome and introduction. And indeed, I am delighted to be here this afternoon to share in this fashion with the people of God and those who are joining, who have joined, who have an interest in the subject areas that we'll touch on. So as Sister Farron mentioned, I am Domville Lawrence, and I do have a deep interest in the areas of financial investment and, of course, land administration and management, as was mentioned in the profile that was read. So let me acknowledge Reverend Brian, our host pastor of the Christiana Church, Sister Farron, who is the Christian Ed Director, the IT personnel and others, my sister, others who are viewing inside the house and on the Zoom platform. So my task this afternoon is to share briefly, I have this discussion on two very important topics, I think: financial investments and the importance of making a will. I want to start with investment first of all. And it's a very wide subject. So I will touch on the basics. And of course, I'll take questions at the end if anyone has any question that they wish to pose. So the idea is to provide you with the information so that you can make wise decisions. Because as we are in Family Month and we want to be wise in how we treat our families, we look at leaving a legacy. And leaving a legacy has to do with how well we plan. In other words, we have to plant in order to reap. So to leave a legacy, we have to have some solid plans. And one of the things that we recommend is that we invest. There are different types of investment. I'll just touch on financial investments for a few. So why should we invest? We should invest because, one, first and foremost, we need returns. We need to prosper and be in good health, as the Bible states. Prosper and be in good health don't mean sit and fold our arms and expect manna to fall from heaven or money to just fall into our pockets. If that were the case, then all of us who are believers in Christ would be millionaires. But those who make it, those who leave a good legacy for the families, they invest. And so there are different types of investment. On the financial investment, obviously, we're looking for returns on our money or on our assets. So that's why we invest. So we will invest in a cow. Yes? We'll invest in a heifer. Let's start there. In the hope that it will become a cow. And at the other end, it will produce calves. That is big investment. And we're coming from the day when a heifer, a cow, a mature cow was sold for $5,000. That is what happened a few years ago when we had the mad cow disease. Now that same cow is probably $200,000. So I use cow as an example because I want to get the point across how important investment is. So if you invest in a bull, you definitely won't get any calves. But you can still make a profit if you invest in a bull. But if you invest in a heifer or in a cow, you're likely to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 calves before that cow has to be put away or something of the sort. And so we invest because we want profit. There's another reason why we invest, brothers and sisters, as I greet you on Zoom and elsewhere. For preservation, the safety and security of our assets. Those are reasons why we invest. So it's fine to put our money under the mattress, those who like to do that. But there's a downside to that. Others may find out where the mattress is, and the mattress will either disappear or the money may disappear. So if we're going to invest for preservation of the assets that we have, safety and for security, we may want to invest those monies into a financial institution. All right? So in the same way that we invest when we buy a car, most of us either put on an alarm system, or we put on kill switch, or we put in cameras, or we put in something. We want to preserve and protect what we have. Same thing with our cash. If we're investing it for profit, put it in a safe financial institution. And we invest for forward planning. We invest because down the line we just start work, we just leave college and university and we start work, and down the line we'll want a house, a car, and so on and so on and so on. And we'll want children and all of this sort of thing. So those are some of the reasons why we invest financially. So in terms of financial investment, and let's look at a couple. You could invest in savings. That's one way. Save some money in a bank, in either a local or a foreign currency account. These days the rates of return are low, but it's still safer than in your pocket or at home under a mattress, because it is earning something, though small, and it's safer. And if somebody come and thief it from the bank, you will still get it back. But if they thief it from under the mattress, you'll not get back a cent. I can tell you that. All right, so savings is one way to go. Whether it is passbook savings or fixed investment savings. And time wouldn't allow to go through all of them, but briefly. You have other types of financial investments that you can go into. Some of them have an insurance side to it where you can invest in kind of a policy. For example, some insurance companies offer life plus investment type policies. And insurance generally is a good thing to invest in. Let's put it that. Because you pay this premium, and in some instances, the premium can be quite reasonable. In others, it's a bit costly. But think about the benefit at the end of the day, because you insure your house. Because if there's another Gilbert and it gets damaged, there is some insurance money somewhere. Yes? So you have an insurance policy that has a life component and has a fixed investment component to it. What it ensures, certainly for me, is that during my lifetime, there are funds that I can take off when the car insurance is due, when the children's school fee due, and there is that portion that is left there that if I die, my family, my beneficiary gets some funds. So I don't believe in this thing where all of the money that I invest in insurance must go to my beneficiaries. I must earn some of it. I must enjoy some of it while I'm alive, and my beneficiaries get the rest when I pass. So when you're investing in insurance, it's important to understand those goals and those objectives. Don't just because an insurance person says, "I'll sell you a policy," you just buy it. You must know what your goals are. And I'm saying a wise investor will have life insurance, but he'll also have investment type insurance policy. All right? And we won't go into the name of the instruments because time wouldn't allow. Just saying that that's another good way to invest. When you're investing, my brothers and sisters, viewers, you want the best return with the least risk. When you're investing, I need to repeat this, while we aim for the highest rate of return, we should also be thinking about having the least risk. What do I mean? If you're a farmer and you invest in Irish potatoes, that crop will come in within 4 months or so. If the yield is good, you can be smiling all the way to the bank because Irish potato sells for good money. However, Irish potato is susceptible to diseases, flood rains, long periods of drought and all of these things. So while Irish potato provide good results and good returns, the risks are great. So if you're invested in Irish potatoes, you're investing because the return tends to be high. But also note that overnight you can lose an entire crop of Irish potatoes because of some heavy rain or some disease just take over the thing. So it's a similar thing with investment of your financial, your monies. Know the institution that you're investing in. We won't call some of the names of some that persons have invested in and have lost their shirt on their back, so to speak. So we have to know the risk. So even though the returns are high, be mindful of the risk and invest in institutions and assets with least risk. And if you're not sure, talk to the experts in the market before you invest your money, because when some of these people take your money and get up and go, you can't find them. All right. So I want to stop there with investment because I think you get the gist. One of the critical piece of asset that I want to suggest as I leave this subject area is real estate. If you have money, Pastor Brian, ladies and gentlemen, if you have money and can afford to invest in real estate, you cannot go wrong with real estate. Now, some people invest in motor cars, and nothing is wrong with that, except that if you invest in land, when I speak of real estate, I'm speaking primarily land. The fact of the matter is that motor cars will depreciate every year, but the value of land will appreciate. That's the marked difference. So while it's fine to invest in a luxury car and all of these things, be mindful of the fact that the value of that asset is going down, down, down. But if you invest in land as an asset, your money is growing every day because land is finite. In other words, Jesus is not making any more land. The same amount of land in the world. But millions of people are being born every day. So the demand for land is always climbing. So if you invest in land, you can't go wrong. Except, of course, maybe if the land falls in somewhere where it's prone to flooding and people start move out of the area. Nobody don't want that sort of. But in generally speaking, land as an asset for investment is big. It's a big thing. If I had money, I would invest all over the place. Good. The question that came from the floor, is that part of the reason why people are always fighting for land? I want to think so. Part of the problem too, which I'll get to later, is that because those who own it and have left it for family didn't do the right thing. Okay? So that's part of the reason why people chop up people over a piece of land, because mama and papa didn't do the right thing before they left the scene. We'll talk about that when we look at will. All right, so we say we can invest in our banks and financial institutions and insurance companies and so on, and we can invest in assets like land and the other stuff. We have many other asset types, but we just touch on those for general information. All right, and so as I leave this subject, just to say that when you're investing your money, shop around, talk to all the financial institutions that you can, get the best rates, the best offers with the least risk, get technical advice if you need it, and then step forward. But have a plan that includes what we call a time horizon. What do I mean by that? If you're investing, for example, in land, you know that it is not a short-term type of investment. Okay, you wouldn't buy an acre of land today and sell it tomorrow. You could, but what you will make on top of your money would not be significant. But if you allow that land to stay there, develop the land, a couple of years down the road, you start to see. So if you have this amount of money and know that next year you're going to want to go to college, you may not want to invest it in a piece of land. You might want to put it into a financial institution, knowing that come next year when you want to go to college or send your child, you can take off part of it and invest in that. But if you put it into land, and next year you're going to want it to go to college, that don't make no sense, because you're going to have to sell back the land with minimal profit. So when we talk of time horizon, when you throw partner, for example, you know that my insurance is due December, so may I throw one partner from August to end December. That's my time horizon for this investment. And if I'm putting it into a financial institution, I'm saying to them, may I put it here from August until December when the insurance company calls me. So you have a plan and a time horizon. With landers and assets now, you're not thinking of taking off the money tomorrow morning. It's a long-term investment. And my brothers and sisters, long-term investments tend to reap more profits than short-term investments. All right, that can be a debatable point. But in the main, assets like land and building. Now, important to note as well, that under real estate, buildings will depreciate. Yes? So when the valuator comes to value your property, for example, he has to take into consideration the life of the building. So if your building is 50 years old and mine is 2 years old, and it's the same 2-bedroom house, which is likely to be the most valuable? I would expect the 2-year-old. So I say this to say that one has to depreciate the building in order to arrive at a fair value. It can be that there's what you call replacement value that is considered, of course. But all I'm saying is that when we're investing, I focused on land because, of course, you have to have land in order to have building. And let me get back to the point of investing in real estate. The persons who are really making a lot of money now are those persons who are able to put up apartment structures or buildings and rent. Rental is big thing if you have money. And can put up a couple apartment building in Christiana, Brother Jimsy, you make a lot of money. People want place for rent. Let me just put it in the colloquial term. People want terms for rent, want places for rent. So you can't go wrong if you invest in I'm just saying that the building will depreciate and the land will appreciate. So you will always have good value in your real estate. All right, so I'm moving to the next topic now. As we leave a legacy, and I want to commend the Christian department of the Christian Church of God for the initiative to really remind us of how important it is for us to leave a legacy.
So, Mr.
Yes, I have a question.
Before you move on, I would like to find out if it is good for us to invest in stocks, if that is a good thing to do.
Okay, very good question, Rev. Rev is asking if it's good to invest in stocks and bonds. That area is a good area to invest. However, we advise that for that type of investment, you need the established, experienced brokers to assist you, because the layman by himself may not have the expertise to understand the market enough. But it's a big yes for investing in stocks and bonds, because the whole truth about it is that one has to know the type of shares, for example, that you want to purchase. So in other words, if tomorrow morning you hear that Brother Lawrence from Christian have a company and he puts out an IPO, that's an initial public offer for a person to buy share, you might be hesitant because Brother Lawrence just tomorrow morning. But if you hear that Grace Kennedy or NCB or some other well-established Mayberry is putting out something like that, then talk to your broker and get some guidance, because here again, investing in the stock market is a kind of a specialist area where you need all of the guidance, just not your funds, because you have to have brokers that you can rely on to move your funds around and to get the best buy, because shares, the value of shares will fluctuate. And there are times when you as an inexperienced investor, once the value of the shares start to go down, you may want to go for your money. But the wise investor will understand that it will go this way, but eventually it will go, and that's when you really start. But a lot of people come out of the market once the value of the shares fall. But if you're investing in stocks, I would say to you, speak to a broker. Don't just go into any institution and just give them the money. Speak to a broker and get good advice first. Now, it is true that investing in the stock market is a long-term investment. So if you have $100 to invest, you do not want to invest that $100 everything into stocks, because then you don't have any leeway to do anything else. And if the thing is doing gymnastics, you're going to be more jittery. That's why we advise have a mixed portfolio. Some in stocks, some in shares, some in real estate, some in coal, some in crops, some that sort of a thing. So it's a risky area, but there are huge benefits if you have the right backing from a broker. Or if you go into any other financial institution, they have in-house people that can guide you, but pass your investment money through reputable institutions. That's as much as I will say, because it's a technical area that you'll be delving it if you go into stocks and bonds. It's pretty much buying into other companies with the hope, with the understanding that the companies will perform well, so that their balance sheet will look good, and that dividend will be paid on their shares. And then people want to buy those shares, so the value of those shares will go up and make it. People make money off that, but you must be willing to stay in the boat when it gets very, when the sea gets rough out there. But it is a good investment. But for people like some of us who are risk averse, because that's part of the challenge that a lot of us face, why we don't make money, why we become so risk averse, because we hear of what happened to this company, and what happened to that company, and that man lost his money, that one lost his, and we say, we're not going to that. A farmer tell me that he planted, when I was in the bank, I planted 1/4 acre of tomatoes and was able to buy a pickup out of 1/4 acre of tomato. That's amazing. A pickup he was able to purchase. Mark you, that kind of crop is susceptible to all sort of things. But he decided to take the chance, spend the money, and he was able to purchase a pickup, recover his cost, and he was good to go. So, yes, there are risks that are involved. And some of us become too risk averse. And we say we're not jumping it, we're not getting into any of these things, we're not putting any money into any bank, we're not buying any shares in the company, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And so guess what? We remain at subsistence level for the rest of our life. We must be willing to take some risk, but it must be calculated risk, right? Yes, right.
Do a follow-up
Yes.
question here. The fact that we are a Christian-based organization,
Yes.
is it okay for me to invest in a company per se, Jerry and Neville?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Very good question. Very good question. Very good question. As a Christian, should I be thinking about buying shares in a company that produces alcohol? I don't know what the Bible says about that, but from where I am standing, I am not investing in the, thank you, Rev. I am not investing in the rum at all, or the beer. I'm investing in the business. And if the business happens to be that, then so be it. The fact of the matter is that my money needs to grow. And if that company is a solid company, if when I look at the balance sheet and when my broker recommended that this company is going somewhere, and I see the value being created for my money, I don't have a problem as a Christian investing in there. In the same way that I would put my money into one of these commercial banks, and I don't know if any of the heads of those commercial banks being children of God. So, I guess it boils down to the individual. If you as a Christian feel, somewhat hesitant about it because that company is producing something that Christians don't necessarily consume a lot, then fine. But for me as a Christian, I don't have a problem with that. For me, it's an investment decision. I have put, as long as it is legal, as long as the company is operating legally, for me, using that example that we have cited, that's fine with me. But I'm sure other persons may have a different view. On the other hand, if somebody should come up with a scheme that says, we've established this scamming company, that we are going to take money from some unsuspected people and pay you huge profits, then no, my money going somewhere else. My money going somewhere else. Because the fact of the matter is that maybe that same company, even though its primary product might be, let's say rum, let's say cigarettes, it may be that the company offers other services to the populace that might be just as legitimate. So I might say I'm investing in the soft drink part of the company. But you really don't have that sort of a thing. You're investing in the entire company. So if you're going to think of, once you start to think of investment in terms of what the company does, nothing is wrong with that, except that if the company is operating legitimately and it is not scamming, and the balance sheet look good, and the brokers recommend it, and they're a good company, so to speak, I don't have a problem as a Christian investing in them, because I don't decide what they do with the money. I'm interested in what their balance sheet is telling me.
Brother Lawrence,
Yes, sir.
I don't want to stress on this, but sometimes we get caught in the middle of some things, and sometimes some of these discussion can help us.
Absolutely.
And all
Yes,
of that.
Yes, sir.
As you speak about all of this, persons would want to think that if you invest in these companies, especially in a cigarette company, and we know that when persons use this, they abuse themselves. And how could I say that smoking is wrong? Because it affects your health. And on the other hand, I am participating in the development, invest in this company. How would persons see me, say as a pastor, who say that you must not smoke? How would persons see me in that sense?
Very good point, and very good question. The thing is, at some point in time, I believe we have to separate the thing and look at it two ways. It would be almost like saying that if I'm a policeman, then I can't be a Christian. Because how can I be a Christian and I'm going to shoot one man? If you see where I'm going, if I'm a Christian, I shouldn't work in a bar. Or I shouldn't work at Supreme Ventures either, because it's gambling business. Suppose my job in the bar is to sweep it up. You're saying because I'm a Christian, I shouldn't work in the bar? Or you're saying that because I'm a Christian, I shouldn't sell liquor in the bar? We have to, at some point in time, separate let's speak of the investment then. When you invest in a company that does none of these things, you don't know where their money go after you put it in. So in other words, when you put 1 million in NCB or BNS, you do not know where it goes from there. So, well, you can say you don't know, but the fact is, it may be that some of these same money end up in some of the same cigarette, some of the same liquor companies. That is why you have to see it as investing your money in a legal entity for a return. If you have a problem because it is doing that, then don't invest. But don't condemn me because I am not gambling. I'm saving my money and expecting a return in the same way that I plant my Irish potato and expect one bag to give me 20 bags. But I understand why some Christians would have a problem with that. But I am thinking as an investor with some money and want a return. If the business is legal, as far as I'm concerned, I have satisfied the law of the land. If it bothers my conscience as a Christian, then I won't invest. But I'm not going to say you are going to hell because you invest in that. Because what you have done is put your money into a company and say to the company, I want a return. You know that the company does this, but you don't know some of the other stuff that they do. They may do other things that might be legitimate as well. So that is my view of it. And obviously, some person's view are going to be different because we say, well, because we're Christian, then it's just like how some people say, if I go down to courts and buy a chair, and they say, okay, you've just bought this chair, just sign up this paper because guess what, you can win a house. And some person say, no, me a Christian, me sign it up. That is gambling. That's another subject. Because there's a pastor that I know personally in Brownstown whose wife won a car in the same way, and she gave it back. No, I would like to win a car tomorrow morning. I would like to win a car tomorrow morning and get somebody to tell me no, say, because you're Christian, Lawrence, you must give back the car. How me want to change that the car park outside? But your Christian conviction tells you give it back. Give it back, of course. because you sleep well at night. It's not a problem for me. But I will not buy the lotto or go to the gambling den, go throw dice in order to go put on my money and make some money on it. No. But if I go into the store and buy something and I say, by doing this, sir, you can win a prize. Me no have a problem, but that's me. Everybody different. All right, so having said that now, we're going to talk about the will part because I think that's very important, critically important. Thank you, Rev, for those two, because that one we need one long discussion to get us to. Because you see, when the man was going away and gave the guys the money to invest, Bible says he gave them to invest. I can't, if you can come back from the Bible and tell me where they invest their money into to get the 10%, no. Me don't know what them invest in. Man invest 5 and get 10. It must be something. So the legality of it is one side. Yes, your aim and objective is one side, and your Christian conviction is another side. It's how you can balance that, and to each his own is my own view. So in terms of, as we move to the next subject that we want to discuss briefly this evening, writing a will. All right, a lot of persons don't write will because I hear from when I was young that if you write your will, the day I go dead. People say that. And so some people shy away from, and especially if you have parents and you go say, Mama, write your will, no? I did you want me dead. That kind of thing still exists in today's Jamaica, believe me. Yes, my sister.
You don't touch on the point of writing a will yet, but I am thinking, does it have to be on a legal paper or it can be on any paper as long as it's witnessed by a JP or somebody of that nature when you write a will?
Well, as long as it is handwritten or typewritten, it is fine as long as it meets the criteria of a will. So it doesn't have to be on a legal sheet or a letter-sized sheet, or as long as it is properly written and it meets certain criteria, which we are going to
criterias. Okay.
which we are going to
Okay.
So I made 2 copies of 2 will forms that you can have a look at as we have the discourse. But the critical thing though is that the will should be in writing. You can't do your will by voice note or by video recording. If you want to do that, that's fine, but it must be backed up with handwriting or typewritten will. And a computer would generate that because we don't use typewriter anymore. So handwritten or typewritten, right? All right. Now the testator, as we go through the discussion, the testator is the person who is leaving the legacy. Let's understand that up front, right? Yeah. The testator is the person who is making the will. And the topic for this family week discussion, leaving a legacy. Yeah, man. So the testator is to be very careful in writing his or her will. You have to, when you're writing your will, you have to be sure, be clear about what your wishes are. It must not be left to what daddy did mean by this or what mommy did mean by this, right? So you have what we call simple wills, where I'm leaving the chair, leaving the box, leaving the computer. That's pretty simple. Almost anybody can do that. But there are some wills that require the assistance of an attorney at law. Because, for example, if you're leaving something for a child, an infant, who is obviously would be under 18 and so on, there are certain nuances certain wordings to that will that the layperson may not be able to figure out and to come up with. So in those situations, it's best if in writing your will, you get the assistance of an attorney at law. However, if it is just to say I'm leaving the drum set, the keyboard and the boxes for my daughter Kadeen, you don't need lawyer to do that. Now, some people, if it is even a pin you're leaving, some people feel better getting a lawyer to write semi leaving a pin. And nothing is wrong with that. Because it's just that yes, you have to pay for it. And it costs a little bit more if it's a lawyer that's going to prepare it. And nothing is wrong with that. If that is what you feel comfortable with, fine. But in writing your will, you must be clear. You must be plain. You can't say, for example, I'm leaving a piece of land for Denise. Which piece of land? Daddy have about 20 different parcels of land. And daddy say I'm leaving a piece of my land for no. It must be quarter acre of my land. I'm situated at Dobson. I'm bequeathing to Denise. And the 2023 Toyota Crown is for my daughter Tanya. You understand what I'm saying? It can't be, it must be specific. All right? Good. So who can make a will? Yes, sir.
If any at all that we take the right approach,
Yes.
then these persons, legal persons, would be able to advise us as to how to go about it.
Yes.
Because if I said I want to leave a piece of land, then I'm expecting my attorney to actually put it in writing as, after questioning me, because he would have known and have the experience of doing a will and to put it in proper context. So I think that's where it would be helpful to have those legal persons doing it for us.
Yes. Thank you for that, Rev. So the point that Rev is making is that if you have a difficulty expressing your wishes and your desires, then you can get help. So you're not bound to write your will yourself. You can do it yourself. But what Rev is saying, and I'm agreeing that where you need help, you can consult somebody else, not necessarily a lawyer, but other persons who offer the service. But if you feel more comfortable with that, I would love to talk about my lawyer, then that is fine. But if you can write it, it's good. Matter of fact, your daughter can write the will for you if the daughter is not a beneficiary on the will. You can't write it if you're a beneficiary. Because obviously, if you're a beneficiary, I'm going to write, say, I want the house, the care, the land. That is me, not you as a daughter. I'm a son.
One more follow-up question here.
Yes.
Brother Lorenz.
Yes.
If me, Pastor Brian, write my will, who will sign the will? As in to validate the will. Who is the person that I'm going to leave?
All right, good question. Let's get into the presentation. Let's get into the presentation. Some of this will come out in the presentation because I love the questions that are coming. All of those are answered in the presentation, Rev. So thank you for that. All right. So who can make a will? The law requires that the person who is making the will must have the legal and mental capacity to make the will. In other words, you can't know that me just come from Bellevue and believe that well, if I just come from Bellevue, then maybe me get better. Yeah, maybe get better. So that's not a good example. In other words, if your mental capacity is affected one way or the other in a negative way, you're not in the best position to make a will. And somebody may want to contest that if it boils down to that. So it's important that we're mindful of that. The person should be in a legal position and in a mental capacity to make a will. So in other words, if the house is yours, then you can make a will, but you can't will something when it belongs to you. If I could will things when it belong to me, boy, I would go to a Christian and look for some big building and some car, and yeah, you will what belong to you. So this means that the person ideally, well, not ideally, under law, must be over the age of 18 years. So a 17-year-old, we wouldn't expect a 17-year-old to make a will. The person must be of a sound mind. And the person who makes a will must not be coerced into writing a will. No amount of duress. In other words, nobody should be pressured. Excuse me. No one should be pressured, forced into writing or making his or her will. Thank you very much. All right. Yes. Thank you.
All right, just based on what you just said about nobody under the age of 18 can make a will, the thought just came to me. If there is a person who is 17 years old and they own a motor vehicle and something happens to that person, they can't will that vehicle to anybody. Do they need somebody else, like a parent or something to?
Okay, well, in a situation like that, if the person is under 70 and dies and has assets, technically speaking, if this person didn't make a will, then there are ways that the family members can formalize how they benefit from those. But in terms of him or her making a will, you're not legally able to make it until you're over 18. So if you die with that asset, pretty much it goes to the family or your estate, and the lawyers and the legal people will work out the ramifications of that. Okay. But it's just that you can't bequeath it because of the age issue that you have. But it don't prevent you from owning it. The family will figure out that legally with the attorney and so on. All right. So what may be devised or bequeathed by will? In other words, what can we put in our will, brothers and sisters? Once you own something that has a monetary value, you can put it in your will. Once it has a monetary value. All right? So the car has a value, the house has a value, the land has a value, the jewelry has a value. Whatever it is, it must have monetary value to make sense for you to put it into your will. All right? And as I said earlier, we must describe it to allow for it to be clear to whoever is going to deal with it to understand. So instead of saying my car, as I was saying, it must say my 2023 Toyota Crown. All right? Or if it is the two-bedroom house that is at St. John's Road, you say my two-bedroom house at St. John's Road goes to Jimsy Brown, but my four-apartment house at Brockery goes to Taylor Swift. So it has to be specific. The language has to be very, very clear. All right, so we go to the next topic, the execution of wills. In other words, and this touches on Pastor Brian's question, the testator, the person writing the will, making the will, must sign his name at the foot or at the end of the document, in the presence, not necessarily of a justice of the peace, but it must be two witnesses. Well, yes. And both persons should be present at the same time that I am signing my will. Well, if I'm going to witness something, I'm going to read what is in it. I'm not going to witness anything that I don't read it. Yes? Because you're witnessing it to say, yeah, I witness this document. But whether will or not, do not sign any document without reading the contents of that document, because you might be reading something where say, signing this means that you're going to be shot this evening. And you sign it. Oh, very much so. Because while it is that you might not be the one who's going to execute the plan according to what the man is, or the woman is leaving, but you witnessing the thing, you understand that what this person writes, it makes sense. And you don't, you just don't sign because you know me. You sign something that that you're privy to. All right? So it should be signed, 2 witnesses, and both should be present at the same time while the man or the woman making his will is signing. All right? Yes, you have a question, Sister.
Is there a specific language, sir? I noticed you said earlier that you must be in your of a sound mind or a right mind. So do I need to state that I, Tanya Thompson, of a sound mind or something? Is there a specific language in which it is written?
Well, there's a specific language in which the will itself is written, but you don't necessarily have to state in writing your will that you are of a sound mind. You don't have to.
Okay, thank you.
But there are some documents that may carry that kind of a clause because it's important. And if you write that into your will, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It doesn't invalidate it. So if you want to write, say, brother, may I write a will here, may I write? Nothing is wrong with that. What is important is that your instructions, where your estate is concerned. So you have left someone in the bank, whether NCB or Scotia or Olinter or whatever it is. My money is in the bank, and this is what I want to happen. The one not down there, so this is what I want to happen. Make it very clear. Because guess what? Many, many times, as I have seen in my lifetime working in the area of land administration and management, many times it's after somebody gone that we find out who are bullbuck and who are duppy conqueror. Because everybody live good until Mama eye close. After Mama eye close, worse if Mama didn't make a will. As I've seen in my own personal experience, will be made and one beneficiary will decide to take everything. And if you are not of a mind to go and fight him or her in court, you lose a lot of what is left for you. Because people can be very dishonest, as I have proven personally. All right.
One more question, sir.
Yes.
What if I have, let's say, an insurance policy where I have, as beneficiaries, I allocate 25% of whatever the insurance money to one person. However, in the will, I have a different set of instruction regarding that same insurance. How is that treated?
All right, I was distracted a bit. Could you repeat the question?
What if I have an insurance where I have my list of beneficiaries and I have instructions there that say probably 25% for Katie, 25 for Pastor, 25 for Denise, 25 for you. But in my will now, in the writing of my will, the same insurance policy is, I allocate it in the will, I say 50% for Jimsy. How would that be treated? Because then that would be 2 different set of instructions.
Okay. All right, so in effect, what you would be doing would be changing the way you want your assets to be distributed. While it is that in writing a will, you have the option to change what is written in the will. The matter of the insurance at the bank, that has to be treated according to the kind of contract that you and the bank have. If it is that it is in the will, when it was set up in the bank. then fine, there is a wording, a document that we'll talk about that you can use to change it. But very often the contractual arrangement between you and the bank, where you say 50% must go to Lawrence, and your will might not have an effect on that. But anything written in the will can be changed later on. Not necessarily by writing a new will, but doing a document to say instead of half acre go to Jane, 1 acre. But this now is speaking to asset that is at the bank. If he says no, the asset at the bank, whereas I had said 25% for Denise, 50 for Kadeen, I am now saying that if the bank accepts that, then we're good to go. Because in effect, it's a change. But it all depends on what the bank will have to say, whether the bank will respect the terms of the will or they're going with the contract that they have, which says, Pastor Brian must get the money if you did. We no business with no will. So that's a little gray area that, the family and the bank will have to work out. But if at the time when the investment at the bank is done, it's in his will, it's there, that I have 100,000 at the bank and this is how I want it to go, I guess a lawyer might help you to unravel how we make that change. Because it in effect is a change. But not a change to will, it's a change to how his asset is being distributed. Notice we say what is written in a will can be changed. We're not speaking to the bank, no, because we don't know the arrangement with the bank. So that's an area that has to be, some further investigation may have to be made. You understand? Because maybe then what may have to happen is that the will may have to be probated first before the bank can chip in. If the will is going to supersede the instruction that you gave to the bank earlier. So that is why when we leave in a legacy, we have to cover all the bases so that when you're gone, yes, I had a relative who kept telling me, Danville, I'm going to put you on my bank account down by wherever. And it never happened. So when the relative passed now, me can't go to the bank now, go say anything. Cause she did say she will put me on it, but me never go sign nothing. So, yes? Okay. So, yes, change can be made, but where it relates to something that is not in the will, that's a gray area that will have to be explored with legal assistance and the bank's position where that contract is concerned. All right. When we said the two witnesses have to sign, necessarily mean that the two of them have to sign the same time, In other words, as long as me making the will, I'm here, you come as a witness, the person can, you understand what I'm saying? Don't necessarily mean that all three must be there at the same time. You don't have to do it in each other's presence, but it's critical. Now, so in addition to the witnesses then, Rev, then I will sign, because I have to sign. It's my will. So I have to sign. All right? If we don't follow the procedure, the will is not valid. Well, my signature is important, and the witness's signature. There you are. Now, if the person making the will is illiterate, very important, or blind, can read and write and things like that, there are ways that we can still treat with the will. So a person, as you know now, right now, in a legal document, if you're not able to sign your name, as we say, we can use what we call the marksman clause, which is to say, just make an X, but this clause has to be embedded in the document that says, after the document was read over to him in my presence, and he appeared to understand the same and made his mark in my presence, and a justice of the peace witnessed the thing, then the man has signed his will. But you can sign for him and say, oh, my daughter did sign it for me. It's not legal. You make, if you can't make your ex, then that's a different.
Person who cannot read or so you can have a clause embedded in the document. Could you just repeat that, please?
Good. So we're saying that if you're making your will and you're not able to sign your name to the will, you can tell me, say, it's 1 acre land at Hope Village in Manchester, you know. But when it comes to signing the will document, you can put the Lawrence signature on it. Because it will require you to sign the will to make it legal. We require 2 witnesses to make it legal. But if you can't sign, you can simply make your X, when you vote, no? Put your X beside the will. No. And then you put your X beside the will where your name is supposed to go. And then it should be written in the document that this was done after the thing was read over to him or her in my presence, when he appeared to and expressed that he understood all of what I was saying and made his mark. Yeah, man. Fine. So that is how, you know, you would get his not his signature, but his you understand? Now, if there's a cross out on the will, like any legal document, you know, you have to initial where the or sign your name, right? Where the thing, and it must be as near as possible to the correction is where we should sign, not half a mile away, because we have to make sure that it is indicating that we are fine with this correction. Because if you come to attorney X with a will, where 1 acre and cross out and 5 acre right there, and you forget it. If I am a lawyer, I may send you back with a will there, because. But if that is signature or initials, whatever, is beside it, and so on, then we know, say, he met the cross out. All right. Now, remember that we said 2 witnesses. And we are saying, it's very important that we make a note of this, that the witness should not be the person's spouse. My wife should not witness my will. Your husband should not witness your will. Your son or your daughter or your grandchildren, whoever it is that is getting something from you when you pass, should not witness the will. Yep. So, because really and truly, you're really not supposed to see it, but just in case you see it, for some reason, you can't witness it. You understand? You can't witness it. You follow what I'm saying?
One other question just before you move on, just
Yes.
before Pastor. All right, just like how the husband cannot sign the wife's will and vice versa, can the beneficiary sign the will?
As
be
a
a
witness?
witness? Be as a witness.
No, I don't think a beneficiary can't be a witness. Yes, man. Anybody can be a beneficiary.
What I want to find out, Brother Lawrence,
Yes.
say for instance, a couple is there. Should the husband, well, we don't know who would die before who,
That's it.
husband or wife, which one will die before. But can we safely say we can leave the will up to that time to, say for instance, the one that is left behind? So I die before my wife, so I don't do a will. So it is up to her now to do the will. So whatever is there will now pass on to the children or family members or whoever. Or is it important that while I am alive, I make the will?
All right. If I'm understanding you clearly, if you're asking whether you own assets you and your wife own assets. And you're wondering if you could write a will that says whoever remains after distribute. Is that what you're saying? Well, I wasn't getting the question.
What I'm actually saying is, should I wait
Yes.
and until the last spouse?
Oh,
remain?
absolutely not. Absolutely
Okay,
not.
okay.
No. Sure, you shouldn't wait. You shouldn't wait. As soon as you can, you write a will. So there's no point in waiting. There's no point in waiting. There's no, you may perceive a benefit to waiting, but no. I would say, once you have assets, make a will. Now, I need to backtrack a little bit to something that I touched on when I said invest in real estate. When you invest in real estate like land, you want to make sure that you have a title for the land. So that when you're putting that land in, as part of what you're bequeathing to people, that it's titled land and not unregistered land. Now, unregistered land can be very challenging when it comes to sharing it up, as we use the term, because there's no title, right? The property is not surveyed. You don't know where the pegs are, where the boundaries are. All of these things are factors that will, and some family, when I encourage people that come to me to say, survey the land and get a title. Make the picnic them deal with that. Me no. So it's important that when you invest in real estate like land, you have a title. You buy a car, the car has a title. You buy land, you have a title. All right, now back to the will. So remember now, anyone who is receiving a gift, cannot witness the will. That's what we said. So whether it's wife or husband or children, excuse me, you cannot witness that will. All right. Let's talk about the executor now. You know the will requires an executor who is somebody who is going to carry out your wishes and your plans and your desires for your family. So the executor is the person who is named as the man or woman who will administer your estate. So you make sure that who you choose as executor is somebody, even if you not come a Christian in the church, make sure it's somebody who is as trustworthy as you can find them, and somebody that you can rely on. Because we see many estates being manipulated, but we'll leave that for another discussion.
That goes to the executor. Is there a percentage?
Yes. The question is from the floor: is there a percentage of your assets that goes to the executor? The simple answer is yes. We won't speak about the percentage, but except to say that the executor under law gets something for administering your estate. Yes, because if you don't, the will just sit somewhere and not carried out. Your wishes won't be carried out. The thing about it is that for those properties and assets that are left behind where there is no will, people just occupy them. One man saying take the van, the other one saying take the 5-acre land because he's been a farm upon it long time, and it stays there until somebody decides, well, you're going to make a fight. And then now people start to try to find a way to get papers. But you know, it's not wise. It's best if you have the thing properly documented. The law prescribes a percentage of the asset, the value of the asset. But, you know, there are special arrangements that can be made outside of that between some executor don't take anything. Them just give, the car is yours and give you the car.
All right. So, brother, the executor has to be a lawyer or it can be anybody?
Anybody at all. Anybody. It doesn't have to be a lawyer. A lot of people use a lawyer as their executor, and we understand why. They're concerned about But anybody at all, over 18-year-old can be your executor. But it must be somebody who is responsible enough to understand that your will, there is a time frame within which the will should be probated. That who's going to make sure that what I'm going to call meeting with everybody and whatever it's going to take to ensure that the process goes through. The man is going to leave some debt down at the bank that his money is supposed to use to pay off. He's going to be responsible to go down there to make sure that all his debts are paid off. That if he pay for him coffin like how some people pay for them grave spot, and he makes sure all of that is done. It's not, if the children want to take it over and do it, as long as it is done, fine, but it's his job as the executor. Because some executors will sit down and just say, that a few. But it's an awesome job to be an executor of an estate. Your duty under law is to make sure that everything with the man saying want to be done is done. That is why the law provides for you to be remunerated for that.
All right, Brother D, I hear you use the word probate, the person who probates the will and probator. All right, I tell customers it's very regular,
Yes.
but I really don't understand what it means. Can you explain, please?
All right. All right. So when an executor makes a will, and Sister Tanya Thompson writes her will and says, bequeathing my 2023 Toyota Crown to my pastor for faithful and good service, for this to be legally binding, executed, the will must go through a process that we call probate, which is to say, the executor will present to an attorney evidence that the person is deceased, which would be the death certificate, the will of the deceased, and all the other information that the attorney will need. And the attorney now will marshal the thing through the court, whether it is Supreme Court or whatever court, for Administrator General, whatever it is. So some goes to Administrator General. Some of these processes have to go through the Supreme Court. So where there is no will, there's what we call administration. So, and that one you have to go to through the courts, definitely, to have a document that says you can now legally distribute the assets. What a lot of people do, they don't worry probate the will. They just know, say, Mama, leave this for me and leave that for you. See the will here, put it down in a bag somewhere in the house. I mean, take the car, you take the house, you take the land. But it hasn't been done properly. So if tomorrow morning somebody decides to come and fight you, you have a problem because you did not probate the will.
Okay.
Sorry, I was about to ask if that's legal. You know that it was left for you and you occupied. You know, say it was a criminal you got occupied. That's not legal, you're saying.
Technically speaking, to make it legal, the will should be probated. The fact of the matter, though, why a lot of people don't probate will is that everybody knows a few, so nobody not trouble you. But here's where the problem comes in. When you're a neighbor, let's say it's land, and a neighbor over there said, your tank is sitting on 24 inches of my land. And the neighbor takes you to court. How are you going to prove that is your land? You're going to say, me daddy, leave it in the will. Somebody might say, but the will was never probated. When the will is probated, it gives persons who may have an adverse view to represent their position. Just like when you survey a parcel of land, you give the neighbor notice. Yeah? When you get married, something have to go for RGD. You don't just say honeymoon and that's it. Pastor, if you want something, go for RGD, go register it. So it's important, but people don't, because in Jamaica, we say, sure, you make the will and me occupy it and nobody can touch me over here. So. But it's not, if you are found in a position where you need to defend yourself legally, you're at a disadvantage because the will has not gone through the proper process.
All right, next question, Brother D. If a person dies and they have asset and they never made a will, so we always tell them that you need to go to the Administrator General to get to appoint
Right.
an executor. Right. Can you please explain that part?
All right. So where a person dies without making a will, which will happen to a lot of people, because as much as we talk about it daily, some people just decide to not make no will. Let's understand. Just in the same way that some person decides to want the land. Me not worry about no title. When they didn't go, I pick them deal with it. So I'm not even sure if 50% of the lands in Jamaica have title. But anyhow, another discussion. So where a person dies and leaves asset but did make a will, what the law requires is that you apply for what we call letters of administration. You administer on the property, which is to say, is almost a similar process to probate, but except that in this case, it's granting letters of administration to you now, as the person who has applied, to now be in a position to treat with the estate of the individual. Because, in other words, there are 5 of us that they leave 5 acres of land, that it didn't leave a will. You now should apply for a letter of administration, which is to go to an attorney at law with the death certificate and any documents you have for the land, and your ID and TRN and all of these things, and prove your relationship and say you want to administer that is estate. The attorney is going to ask you for all of your brother, them and sister name and the address and the telephone number and the TRN and all of these other things, because the attorney has to make sure that all who stand to benefit. So even though you don't make a will, people can still benefit, but you should go through the proper process of administering the estate, and that is for that letter, that piece of document to be granted to you or you and your sister, and you are now empowered under law to give me my 1 acre, give sister her 1 acre, give brother his 1 acre, and everybody will be happy. Especially as it relates to me getting document of title for my 1 acre. Whoever is going to look after the title wants to see the letter of administration or a probated will. So you might not think that you need it, but you may have the acre of land, but you can't get to the title because daddy didn't give you anything in writing to say, Denise, this 1 acre bounded by Tom is yours and by the road is yours. You're now having the burden to prove that you are the owner of this piece of land, because you have to have proof of ownership in order to get a title for the land. So that's why it's important that you either probate the will or apply for administration. Now, what I say to people, if it is that you have property to give to people, you have asset to give to people that you can pass on during your lifetime. If you can give it to them now, give it to them now. No, give it to them when you're dead. Because the will will only come into effect when the testator dies. So if I will to you, Pastor Brian, $1 million today, and I live another 100 years, you don't get that $1 million in 100 year time. So if I want to will $1 million to you, you can't tell me to give you now, but that might be the best thing. So the fact of the matter, though, is that it is what it is. It's the person's wish to give you. When I'm gone, fine. But if I'm in a position to influence it, give me now. Give me a piece of document now, so that if and when you pass, I don't have this problem. All right. So if you're watching and you can talk to me, you can talk to me. I can advise you. You want to give your children the land, their name not on the title, is your name alone. And when you pass, they're going to have problem because of your name alone on the title. All right? But you want the land to go to your son and your daughter. There are ways that you can fix that to make life easier for them. But we operate a consulting business, so you can talk to us at 842-0552. So we charge you a fee and put you on the right path.
One last question, Brother D. Can more than one person administer on an estate?
I will have to check, but I don't think there's an issue with that. If 2 persons apply, I would have to verify. But it's okay for one. I don't see an issue with two, but that can be verified. Because it's important that when you apply for letters of administration, that there is consensus. What do I mean? If you're getting up to do it, you want to have the agreement and support of the other beneficiaries. Because if you don't do that, they could try to block the process and say, I don't want her because a thief should and thief the land. So you discuss among yourself, and your attorney will guide you where that is concerned. So anyone can be appointed as an executor, right? So we need at least one person. Ideally, it should be two. It can be more, but ideally two. Right? Because guess what? If you have one and the person dies, who's going to administer the... So it's always good to have more, yes. So try to have more than one. Ideally two. But if it can be up to four, but you probably don't want to have so much, right? So many. So if one passes, another can. Executive. Very important for the persons who are planning to get married. Marriage will automatically revoke a will. Yes.
So if I wrote my will before I got married, and then I get married now, we need a new will, sir?
You need a new will.
So my wife can just take everything.
You're speaking. Yes, so it's important to understand that if you have a will before you get married, the minute you get married, it changes the you have to do a new. It requires you to do a new will.
So what if you never did a new one? Right. What happens?
In the event that you don't,
That you didn't do a new will.
it's not going to be valid. It's not going to be valid, and your wishes can't be executed like that.
So the new spouse now can go to the lawyer and say the first will before we got married is null and void, so she can, or the spouse can do whatever they want now with the assets?
Well, put it this way, I'm not sure what the spouse can do in those circumstances, except to say, though, that if you look at it, if you had a house and a car and 100 acres of land before, and you had willed all of this to your one child who's studying in America, but then you get married, you now have a husband. Your circumstance has changed significantly. Right? So even if you decide, because these are your assets, even if you decide that still what belongs to me, him come with 10 acres of land, and 10 cars. And he may want to will his to his son that is in Dubai. Right? It's just like when you have, and that's for another discussion, when you have tenancy, when we speak of tenancy, we have joint tenancy and we have tenants in common. Tenants in common allows you to be able to dispose of your 50% of the assets without anybody can stopping you. So you can will your 50%. So if him come with his 10 cows and you have your 10 cows, right? Let's give a different example. Let's say the property that you're both living in now that you are married, both of you buy it. You see why it would change the will? Because you couldn't then be willing the 50% that I give you towards the house to your child. You couldn't be doing that, not knowing that I have one in Canada. You understand what I'm saying? So those are circumstances where you understand why it would have to be a new will. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to dispossess who you had. But it will change some things. And that's why, after all, your name is going to be different now. It's a different person we're talking about now. You were Dennis Jones then, you're now Dennis Williams. So you can be Dennis Jones in a will over there, but now you're Dennis Williams, and you expect that same will to be administered when you don't name don't say them, you know. So there are a number of reasons why the legal luminaries would have put this in place. So just so you know, if you get married, it changes. And once a new will is written, didn't expect to be this long. Once a new will is written, the first one, the old one, must be destroyed. It can't be thrown down in a cupboard somewhere, in a one box, or under the bed, or in a bank safe. You can't have two wills existing at the same time. It must be one. And you must make sure that one they tear up. So the question someone asked, what if the person who the thing is left for dies before the testator? So I see your situation then. The big car and so left for you, and you die before the man. What happened then? Yes, in that case, the testator will prepare another will. Because, however, there is another situation that could present itself. So, outside of giving it to another person, that money or that car that was left for Tanya could now form part of what we call the residuary estate. So in your will, you say whatever left goes to Jane. It could form part of that. But there is an exception according to the law, which says that if the man who the thing left for is deceased, is a child of the man who bequeathed or who gave the thing in his will, then the act will provide for the gift to go to the children of that child. So all is not lost. So if my father left something for me and I pass before my father, then my daughter can get my portion of what was left for me. But you can also change it if you want. Clear? All right, so we talk about revoking a will. To revoke a will is a formal act of rendering a will invalid. Yeah? So, when you write a will, you can change it or you can revoke it if you want. Because I feel something I give away. All right? So you can revoke it with a more recent will or by a particular document, which we won't go into. An attorney will prepare that for you. When you want to make major change, you don't necessarily have to write a new will. You can have a special document prepared to treat with that change. All right? So that is why it's important that your will have what we call a revocation clause, which is what's saying that, this current will cancels any previous. So, you notice when people write 2, 3, 4, some people write 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 will. But the last will must say, this cancels out any previous will. If it doesn't say that, you have a problem. It ought to say that. All right? So it's a legal document that an attorney will assist you with. All right? So there are ways that you can revoke the will. You can just destroy it. Right? That's one way. And we can say by getting married, that's another way. We're trying to cutting it short. So I've given you a few. There are lots of other stuff that we could speak about, but time would not permit me to do so. I will just say that perhaps the most valuable assets that you will bequeath or leave for persons will be land and buildings. If that is the case, make sure that you have good proof of ownership for it. All right? And for those who are planning to purchase land to leave as legacy, make sure that you have titles for those lands, that you survey those lands, and that you agree on the tenure, not the tenure, the coming back to that one slipped me just now, and that the terms, the tenants, the tenancy, you must have agreement on the tenancy. When you're buying land with your spouse or your children or whoever, make sure that you're clear as to whether you're going for tenants in common or joint tenancy. And joint tenancy is where if there are two names on the title, the surviving person gets the full value. If there are 10 persons on the title and 9 pass, it's the one surviving person that will benefit from it. However, on the tenants in common, once you apply for a registered title and you go for tenants in common, it means that each will have equal rights to a portion of the property. So I hope I've given you enough to think about when you think about investing, when you think about preparing a will to make sure that your wishes are honored. If you don't prepare a will, some persons will live happily ever after, but some will end up in court. And God forbid, some may get chopped up and all sort of something, and some will be vexed for life. But the important thing is to have proper documentation, to probate the will if you have made it. If you have made a will, your family member, if you get a will from your parents, probate the will. If there is no will and the die leave assets, go the correct route and apply for administration. God bless you. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any more questions, I'll take them.
One single question, brother. Can a will, what if somebody destroys a will maliciously? It means that if the testator dies, then they have to go back over because...
Yes, if somebody destroys the will, so I make my will and hide it somewhere and somebody find it and tear it up and throw it away. Technically speaking, I don't have a will. So it means the family will then have to go to the next route, which is to administer the estate, which would be sad. If it is that it is destroyed while I'm alive, then I write a new will and then lock it up somewhere, a bank where nobody can find it.
That's what I was going to ask you. If it's safe for us to keep it at home or give it to somebody.
Good question. Good question, Rev. Is it safe to keep your will at home or give it to somebody to keep? Most persons that I know in my lifetime give it to somebody else to keep, or allow the lawyer to keep it, or they lock it up in some safety deposit box at a bank or somewhere. But nothing is wrong with keeping it locked up at home, especially if you have family where you feel comfortable with that. They're not going to try to alter it or destroy it or anything. But the law don't speak to what you do to security. You must protect your own thing by yourself.
Okay. Brother Lawrence, can you state to the public the nature of your business and your number again so we can send it far and near and far?
Okay, thank you for that, Rev. So I operate a consultancy business. I work in association under some special arrangements with attorneys at law, surveyors, valuators, and so on. So if you own land as an asset, land and buildings, you can speak to me about wanting a valuation of the property. If you wish to apply for a title for those lands, wish to have the land surveyed, you want to add names to a title or to remove names, and some very critical service here as well is where somebody whose name is on the title passes. It's important that you understand that the fact of death has to be noted on the title that has your name and the name of the deceased. Otherwise, you will have issue in dealing with the estate. So anything that relates to land, getting a title, adding names, you have assets that you want to give to your children, there's a proper document called a deed of gift that you need in order to pass on those lands so that it makes it easier for those children to get a title. Or you want to transfer, meaning you want to add those children's name to your title by way of gift. We do all of that. and a number of other things that I could touch on. But in the main, those are the main areas that we provide service and guidance. And my contact number for those who may be interested, 842-0552. That's 842-0552. And give me a call if you have a question. And so we do consultancy business. You come in and sit and talk to us, and we provide the guidance that you need. It may mean we refer you to different departments or different professionals. And as I said earlier, we operate with special arrangements that includes lawyers, surveyors, and so on. And we do a lot of work with the LAMP program, which is a government land titling program, which makes the cost of getting a title much, much easier, less costly. Let me use less costly. And so you probably want to talk about that as well. Thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to your call if you have a request or need a consultancy. The question I'm hearing is consultancy free? No, answering a call is always free. The consultancy fee comes in when you tell me what your needs are, and I see where I can guide you and assist you to fulfill that need. Then I'll say to you, there's a consultancy fee, and this is what we can do. So whatever service we can provide, we point you to other individuals or organizations that can assist you. All right. Thank you, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and I hope that this discussion has been of benefit to you. God bless you. I hand back to our moderator. Oh, I'm handing back to Pastor.
Indeed, we can say that this is a wonderful evening. It has been a good presentation by Brother Lawrence, very informative. And I know after listening to this presentation, we are in a better position now to invest and also to make our wills. All right? So I think that the church and the wider society is going to benefit from what was said here this evening. And so we want to say to you, Brother Lawrence, thank you so much for availing yourself to make this important presentation to us. Because as a church, we don't want to be so heavenly minded that we are earthly foolish. We want to be very informed as a church, as a community, so that we can be productive in whatever we have to do here on earth. So I want to say this is another side of the church, amen, where we can impact life and instruct persons as to what needs to be done while we are alive, and that when we are dead, we don't leave a lot of problem behind. So thank you again, sir. I want to say thanks to our viewers. We have persons online from different places who have shared in this presentation this evening, and we want to say thanks, and from the Christian Church of God to you, and we're looking forward in having you at other seminars like this and services. I also want to say thanks to our Christian Ed director and group, led by Sister Kadin Ferron, and the members who have made this evening possible for us as a church, and we say thanks to you. And All the information is online. You can go to YouTube and you can watch the program again. All right, we make sure that it is there because we don't want anybody to miss out. It's a possibility that there person who wanted to join but was unable. So you can go to YouTube and you will find this presentation there. We want you to subscribe to the Christian Church of God. All right, so go there and you will find that presentation. God bless you. Thank you, one and all, for being a part of this session.